Okay, we are going to talk about how to become more mentally strong, because this is such a huge one, especially for those among us, present company included, who are more emotional or who often feel like we're the whim of whatever is happening around us. Like we are being tossed around in life and we don't have enough say over our emotional and mental state. How do we become more solid, more stable, more grounded so that life can be happening around us without us getting tossed around with it? So stay tuned, write these ones down. You're going to want to take note of them and start practicing them and using them and being intentional with them, because they will have a huge impact on your life and your happiness and your well-being if you do. If you're new to me and this is the first time you're here, I want to give you an extra special welcome. Let me know in the comments section below how you found me, where you came from, or let me know, just say hey and let me know that you're new. And for those of you coming back, an extra special hello to you and welcome to you, because I am so glad that you are coming back. Without you coming back and watching and interacting and connecting with me, I wouldn't be able to do these videos, or at least I probably wouldn't want to do these videos if people like you weren't coming back and getting value from them and wanting to be here. So thank you for being here. Either way, my name is Kristina, and I am a registered clinical therapist, a master mindset coach, a researcher, a speaker, and the creator of the Breakthrough Coaching Program. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I work to help heart-centered go-getter men and women break through worry, anxiety, and self-doubt so that they can get out of their heads, get into their lives, and love themselves and their lives more every day. And becoming more mentally strong is going to help us love ourselves and our lives more, because again, we're going to feel that more solid sense of self, more secure in who we are, feel like our lives are more up to us and our emotional states are not quite so up and down and chaotic and here and there and everywhere, which then makes us feel more in charge, which makes us feel better about ourselves. You see how that works? So let's talk about this. And why this is such a huge topic for me is because I've been really pushed emotionally in the past few years. Because I have 3 small children, some of you know that I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old, and I run 3 businesses. And some days it can feel like a lot. Some days it can feel overwhelming. And some days I have to work hard to manage my mind so that my mind doesn't go spiraling and crazy and into places that I don't want it to go. And so a lot of what helps to keep me solid and grounded and comfortable and confident and moving forward without feeling like I'm white knuckling it through life, or like my life is just a crazy show that I'm just trying to get through, because I don't want to live like that either. I have had to use these things in my own life, and which is why I am so impassioned about them, because of the difference that it has made. So the first one, and this is such a huge one, and I teach this so much on how to do this in my Breakthrough Coaching Program, but having a self-talk game that is on point. When you're doing hard things, when you're feeling vulnerable, when you've failed, when you've been rejected, when something isn't going your way, when you're being pushed to your limit, how do you talk to yourself? How do you talk yourself through it? Do you kick yourself, or do you catch yourself when you're down? What language do you use? And this isn't about just those trite things like just think positive and just be grateful. Yes, thinking positive and being grateful are really great things, but that's not the solution to just do that anytime we are struggling. We need to know the language that we need to hear from ourselves to talk ourselves through those really tough situations, to be kind and caring and encouraging and empowering and compassionate, and use language that makes sense for us. And that's going to be different for everyone. So really finding that language. What do you need to hear from yourself in this moment? And one way to do this is to even just think about when push comes to shove and we're in a tough emotional or mental headspace, what do I need to hear right now? What would I love to hear from a loved one, a trusted friend, someone that I could just totally count on? If you don't have someone in your life, just imagine that you did have someone like that in your life, and what would you want to hear from them in that moment? And then you say that to yourself. You need to know how to pick yourself up when you fall down, and that self-talk is going to be huge. And most of us, our self-talk is really stinking crappy. That we kick ourselves when we're down. We struggle, and then we start to judge and criticize and berate ourselves for struggling. Not helpful, makes it worse, and that's often what we get trapped under, and why our issues and our problems and our struggles become so much greater than they are, because of how we treat ourselves when we are down. But we can turn that all around by changing our self-talk game. The next one, you've heard me say this before, but unattaching from your thoughts. That thoughts are not always truths, and our thoughts will even often try to trick us. And on the same token, feelings are not facts, and our feelings will often fool us. That neither of these things are always things that we should be using to guide our decisions, to make our choices. That we need to unattach from our thoughts. We need to learn how to just observe our thoughts, be the observer of our thoughts, because we are not our thoughts. We are the thinker of our thoughts. And learning how to not get pulled into them, not get carried behind them. You know, there's a pickup truck driving through a gravel pit, and we are not in the driver's seat. We are the ones hanging on the rope behind, getting pulled through the gravel pit and getting bumped and bruised along the way, where all we need to do is just release the rope that we're hanging onto and let the truck go where it will. But we don't have to get carried along behind it. Allowing ourselves to have those thoughts, but not getting pulled along behind them. If unattaching from your thoughts is something that's new to you, that this is a whole new concept, that your mind is kind of blown right now, or it's something that you just want to learn how to get better at, I have a 10-minute guided mindfulness exercise. It's an audio exercise. It's free. It's for you. I'm going to put the link in the description below. Make sure that you grab that and listen to that, and that's really going to help make this thing make more sense, and it's also going to help you learn how to unattach from your thoughts a lot easier. The next thing that you can do to become more mentally strong is to accept that life is hard. Sometimes it's harder than others. And some of us are going through harder things than other people. But this thing that we get stuck in, where we often, when things have happened to us, or maybe even are happening to us, and we ask ourselves, why me? Instead of asking ourselves, well, why not me? Who deserves to go through hard things? Who deserves to struggle? Who deserves to have pain? And the truth is, none of us do. And so instead of saying, why me? Being able to say, well, why not me? I'm a human being just like anyone else. And so just sort of acknowledging that life is hard. Life is messy, but life is good. In the essence of it, it is good. And so sometimes when we are taking a step back and maybe even feeling sorry for ourselves, and we all need to have our pity parties, we all need to feel sorry for ourselves sometimes, but being able to catch that and be able to say, yeah, life is hard, instead of saying, oh, life is so hard, being able to say, yeah, life is hard. So what am I going to do? I'm going to give up because it's hard, or I'm going to keep moving through this until it becomes a little less hard for a temporary amount of time, and then it'll probably become hard again, and it'll become easier again, because everything is temporary, everything is impermanent, and that's just part of the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs of life. And so yeah, it's hard, and sometimes it's not, and then sometimes it is again. And if we can just sort of accept that, then it becomes a lot less hard, because we're not resisting it, and we're not pushing back against life being hard. We're just acknowledging it and moving with it and moving through it, instead of fighting it or being angry about it or denying it. The next one, and I love this one because it's a game changer. And the next thing that will help you become more mentally strong is to take responsibility for your choices. To really take a step back. And this goes along with the life being hard thing. And I've done this before, where I felt sorry for myself, and I've taken a step back and I've been like, oh my gosh, I've got so much on my plate, and I have so much I need to do tonight or get done this week, or I'm dealing with all these things and I don't want to have to deal with all these things, and this is so hard, and poor me, or whatever. And then taking a step back and looking at the situations in my life that I'm feeling sorry for myself about and asking myself, how many of these things are actually optional? Right? Like so many of us are like, I have to do all this stuff, but really how much in your life, how many of the things that you have on your plate are things that you have to do? Now, you might not necessarily like the consequence or the results or the outcome of what happens if you don't do them, but acknowledging that that is still a choice. I don't have to do all the things that I'm doing in my life. I don't have to take on as much as I take on. I actually don't. I will not be on the street if I don't. My children will not be fed if I don't. For some of you, yeah, you have to do things that you don't necessarily want to do in order to survive, and that's true. But looking outside of that, how many of the things are we doing that actually are optional, but that we feel guilty about, we feel obligated to do, or we have some story in our head about why it needs to be done this way? How much of that stuff that we're putting on our plate is just filler? It's just the filler from the buffet, and we feel bad. We feel bad for the croutons, and we feel bad for the breadsticks, and so we put it on our plate, but we don't actually need the breadsticks to survive. But really looking at, or even just the things in our lives that we're feeling sorry for ourselves about, instead of taking a step back and being like, okay, like I do have a lot of things that I need to do, but maybe it's okay. Maybe doing those things is my choice because it's helping me move towards something that I really want. It's helping me learn and grow and expand in some way that I need to. So taking a step back with that one and really being able to take responsibility for our lives. We don't always have control over our lives and our circumstances and our situations, but we always have choices within them. Letting yourself have some choices, taking responsibility, taking more responsibility than maybe you already are. I know I struggled with taking responsibility in a lot of areas for a long time. And whenever I start going down that path of, oh, I've got so much on my plate and I've got so much to do, I remind myself, I don't have to. I am going to choose to, and that just changes it around. That I choose to, not I'm going to choose to, I do choose to. Because it's things that are important to me for different things that I want in my life. And so being able to take some responsibility for our lives and for our choices and for the things that we have in them. The next thing that helps us become more mentally strong is, again, along with this taking responsibility, letting ourselves step out of our comfort zones. How many of us are sitting on the sidelines of our lives being like, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that, I wish I had the guts to do that, I wish I wasn't so scared of this, instead of stop waiting to not feel scared. Stop waiting for it to get comfortable and start doing it. Why is it so bad to be uncomfortable? And it's not about going from like 0 to 1,000 overnight. This isn't about being like, I've never gone on video before. Let's just use this as an example. And I'm going to just show up on video in front of like thousands of people. Or maybe I've never done a public speaking event before and I want to do more public speaking. I want to teach and I want to speak or whatever. And I'm going to go from like never speaking in front of anyone before to speaking in front of like 10,000 people. No, that's going to be traumatizing. That's not going to be inspiring. So whatever it is, that thing in your life that you want, take a step. Let yourself be a little bit uncomfortable. A little bit of discomfort is good. Too much discomfort is traumatizing. A little bit of discomfort is good. We cannot learn and grow and stretch if we are not willing to be uncomfortable. There is a certain amount of internal tension that is positive tension, not the kind of tension that creates all kinds of stress and drama and upset, but the kind of tension, the kind of friction that gets us moving, that gets us going, that gets us growing. Letting yourself be uncomfortable and even asking yourself, why am I so scared of being uncomfortable? What am I making it mean if I have to be uncomfortable? What am I telling myself is going to happen if I step out and step up into something? What am I fearing? And am I going to let that fear make my decisions for me? Or am I going to make my decisions for me? That comfort zones are just a construct that our brain has created to try to keep us safe, right? Our brain wants to keep us safe. Our brain's job is to either move us towards pleasure or away from pain. And it doesn't want us to be uncomfortable because it thinks that if we are uncomfortable, we will die. It doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a perception of threat, a perception of danger. And so it sees any kind of threat as this awful thing. And so it tries to keep us away from it, tries to talk us out of it. Instead of talking back to our brain and saying, guess what? Doing this thing, stepping out of this comfort zone, going to this event, or taking on this challenge, or doing this presentation, or writing this book, or calling this person is not a threat to my life. It might be uncomfortable, but I can be uncomfortable. And I teach a lot in my breakthrough coaching program how to be with ourselves in that discomfort, how to ground ourselves, and how to kind of manage our emotions when they flare up so that it makes it a lot easier to be uncomfortable, so that it doesn't become traumatic as we are going and doing those things and pushing ourselves in those ways. So it doesn't feel like we're white knuckling it. So it almost feels like it's exciting, right? It's that difference between exciting and scary. That things are exciting that we're doing, and we're not all dramatic about it. The next thing, speaking of failure, is to change our relationship with failure. If failure is something that you really struggle with, and you really fear it and you try to avoid it at all costs, I want you to ask yourself, what am I making it mean? What am I making failure mean about me? If I fail, am I making it mean that I am a failure or that I had a failure? That I am no good or that I need to try something different because I didn't get it right this time? Really asking yourself, we fear failure so much, but why? It's just an experience. It doesn't mean anything. We decide what it means. We can decide that it means that I suck, that I'm not good, no good, I don't have what it takes. Or we can mean that failure means like, holy crap, I was brave as heck and I put myself out there and I stepped into something unknown. I made myself vulnerable, and that takes a whole buttload of courage, and I'm so proud of myself for doing that. And I didn't get it right this time, or I don't know enough this time, or I haven't figured out what it takes this time, or I have more to learn, or I have more times to try. Asking yourself, what am I making failure mean? Why is failure scary? It's not. It's a thing. It's an experience. It doesn't mean anything, but we create all this drama around failure. We make it mean something. So change your relationship with failure and you will become unstoppable. The next thing, speaking of becoming unstoppable, to become more mentally strong, know that giving up is not an option. If there's something that you want, if there's something that's important to you, if there's something in your life that you're like, I wish I had the guts to do this, to go for this, to pursue this, know that giving up is not an option. Then there's no drama around it. Then you don't have to ask yourself, do I have what it takes? Should I keep doing this? Should I keep pursuing this? Is it worth it? Okay. Actually having an honest conversation. If you decide that, you know what, actually this isn't what I was expecting and it's actually not something that I want or not something that is important to me, yeah, that's fine. Then do something different and figure something else out. Fear versus preference. So if you decide that it's not your preference, then great, try something else. But if you are letting yourself stop or give up because you're scared, that's not a good enough reason. So as soon as you decide that stopping because of fear, because of self-doubt, because things aren't happening fast enough for you the way that you want them to, or it's not going how you expected, or it's harder than you thought, that as soon as you take quitting off the table, then you don't have to have any drama about it. You don't have to spend any time thinking about it. You don't have to spend any emotional energy going back and forth about what you should do. All you need to do is figure out, what am I going to do next? What am I going to try next? How am I going to get back up? What do I need to do to get back up and keep going? If quitting is not an option, then we don't even need to have a conversation about it. And it's not going to create all of this emotional unrest and turmoil and chaos inside. Then we're just solid. We're like, that sucked, that was hard, that didn't work the way that I wanted to. All right, I'm going to lick my wounds. I'm going to feel sorry for myself for a little bit here. And I'm going to keep going because I haven't figured it out yet. The next one, and I love this one. Stop looking for shortcuts. Stop looking for the easy button. In whatever it is in your life that you want, there isn't an easy button. What happens is we are hedonistic. We're just we like easy and we like pleasurable, and we don't like things to be hard, and we don't want to get uncomfortable, and we don't want to have to do the work. We want someone to give us the easy button, the magic solution. And so what we do is we keep thinking that there's going to be this easy button. And so we run around trying easy button to easy button to easy button. We don't actually do the work. We don't actually look inward. We don't actually deal with the stuff, that deeper stuff. And we think that there's just going to be these easy buttons. And so we run around spending all this time trying to get the shortcut. And we waste all of the time trying to get to the shortcut, and the shortcut becomes the long cut. Whereas if we do it right the first time, if we do the work, if we go deep, if we take a step back and know that it's not necessarily going to happen at the snap of a finger, that it's not necessarily going to be sunshine and roses all the time, if we realize that if we want to get to where we want to be, if we want the results that we want, if we want to be feeling how we want to be feeling, if we want the relationships that we want to be having, do the work. The long cut becomes the shortcut because we do it right, we do it deep, we do it properly, and then we move forward and we move and we get the results and things happen the way that they're supposed to happen, the way that we want them to happen. Not always the first try, it's not always easy, it's not always painless, but it takes a whole lot less time than searching for shortcuts to shortcuts to shortcuts. The shortcut is the long cut, and the long cut is the shortcut. Yeah, it's hard. Like, remember we talked about it's hard, but that's part of it. Life is hard. It's part of it. Not always, but it's part of it. The next one, to become more mentally strong. This is essential, and you've heard me talk about it before, and I will shout this from the rooftops. You have to have healthy boundaries. If you do not have healthy boundaries in your life, then you are like a ping pong ball going down the stream at the whim of whatever breeze or debris or current is taking you. You're just tossed around in life. If you can imagine that ping pong ball down the stream, and that is you without boundaries. There's nothing solid. You don't know where your boundaries are with yourself. You don't know where your boundaries are with other people, and you're going to get tossed around. If you don't have that solid sense of self where you're able to say what's okay with you and what's not okay with you, where you're able to say no, when you're able to not take things on that actually don't make sense for you, we're not functioning out of guilt or obligation. When you are not doing all of those things, then you are going to be able to feel more mentally strong, more solid. Healthy boundaries are huge. If having healthy boundaries is something that you're more interested in, I have two things for you. First of all, just to get your feet wet, I have a free download. It's called 25 Ways to Say No. If even just struggling to say no is something that you find hard, you can grab that download. And if you really want like an overhaul, like a comprehensive mindset shift, tools and strategy, up the yin yang giving program, I have a course called Healthy Boundaries Bootcamp, where this is going to be that boundaries overhaul, where you're going to figure out what's okay with you, what's not okay with you. Some of us don't even know, and you're going to learn how to communicate those things and how to respect those things in and of yourself, and how to ask other people to respect them as well. It's a big deal. It doesn't just happen overnight, but it is something that is huge for changing our emotional, mental well-being, for feeling more mentally strong, for feeling more calm and confident and secure in who we are. So I'll put information to that Healthy Boundaries Bootcamp below as well. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Share this out if you think that these are things that people that you know need to hear and need to learn. If it's connected with you, then chances are it's going to connect with someone else. So share this with them and give them the chance to have these shifts as well. If you had some big shifts, give someone else a chance to have some of these big shifts as well. Thank you so much for being here. Come and join my Facebook group, goodformegroup.com. If you haven't already, join me on Instagram. I share things in between YouTube videos, other inspirational things and motivational things, and just stuff from my life. I would love to connect with you there as well. Links are all below in the description below. Which one of these connected with you? Which one of these stood out? Which one of these are you going to start working on? Until next time, take good care.